I'm Savannah Rose, and you're watching Echo Cinema TV. Tonight, President Trump took center stage on the National Mall in Washington, delivering a sweeping address to mark one of the most significant milestones in American history, the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. It was a night of storms, delays, heat warnings, and enormous crowds. But it was also a night the president insisted would happen no matter what stood in the way. Let's take you through everything that was said, everything that mattered, and what it all means going forward. The evening did not start smoothly. Severe weather rolled through the nation's capital, forcing the Secret Service to evacuate the National Mall entirely. Thousands of attendees who had gathered for the celebration had to leave the grounds, with organizers estimating the crowd had shrunk from roughly 375,000 people down to about 150,000 by the time the event resumed. The president addressed that disruption head-on. He thanked the crowd for staying, praised those who braved the weather, and made clear that nothing, not lightning, not rain, not a nearly midnight start time, was going to stop this speech from happening. He said he felt for those who couldn't make it back through security in time, calling the crowd that remained very special, and adding that America itself is a very special country. With the storm behind them, the president turned to the moment at hand, the 250th birthday of the United States, marking 2.5 centuries since 56 delegates in Philadelphia signed their names to the Declaration of Independence. He described the American Republic as nothing short of the crowning achievement of human history, calling the country the home of freedom and the land of liberty. He said the United States remains, in his words, the most extraordinary and exceptional nation to ever exist, arguing that America is doing better now than at any point in its history. The president framed the evening as a celebration of what he called freedom's triumph over tyranny. He walked the audience back to July 4th, 1776, tying it directly to July 4th, 2026, and declared that the country tonight is stronger, richer, and prouder than ever before. From there, he turned to the founding story itself, the 56 patriots who signed the Declaration, risking everything they had, staking their lives and their fortunes on the idea that all men are created equal, and that among their unalienable rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To bring that history into the room, organizers brought out one of the earliest American flags ever made, dating back to 1777. 13 stars, 13 stripes, representing the original 13 colonies. The president noted this was the flag that flew at the Battle of Saratoga, and later at the British surrender at Yorktown, a moment, he said, that convinced the world an American defeat was no longer something anyone could count on. He used that history to pivot into a broader argument, that America's founding document, the Constitution, remains, in his words, the most righteous political document ever written, and that its protections, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, equal justice under the law, and the right to bear arms, are what continue to set the country apart. From there, the tone of the evening shifted toward honoring the people who defended those freedoms. One of the most powerful moments came when the ceremony recognized Sergeant William Carney, a formerly enslaved man who escaped to fight as a Union soldier during the Civil War. Carney became the first African American to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor, after refusing to let the American flag touch the ground even while wounded 4 times in battle. Alongside that tribute stood Colonel Paris Davis, a Medal of Honor recipient from the Vietnam War, honored for leading an assault against overwhelming odds and saving the lives of his fellow soldiers despite serious wounds of his own. The ceremony also honored several World War II veterans in the room, among them a 104-year-old Pearl Harbor survivor who went on to fly missions in the Pacific through to Japan's surrender, and a 107-year-old Navy lieutenant who commanded landing craft during the D-Day invasion of Normandy. A 101-year-old Marine corporal who survived the brutal fighting at Iwo Jima was also recognized, saluting the flag connected to that battle's famous flag raising. From World War II, the president moved into the Cold War era, framing it as the next great test of American resolve. He referenced remarks he'd made a night earlier at Mount Rushmore, warning that communism remains, in his description, a serious threat that Americans must continue to resist. Veterans of the Korean War were honored as well, including service members who fought at the Chosin Reservoir, one of the most brutal engagements of that conflict. The ceremony also displayed a fragment of the Berlin Wall, marking the symbolic end of the Cold War. The president then turned to more recent military action, pointing to operations this year involving Venezuela and Iran. He described the U.S. military response to Venezuela as swift and characterized recent strikes against Iran's naval forces as a major blow to that country's military capability. It's worth noting, these campaigns have drawn significant international criticism, with human rights organizations and foreign affairs experts raising concerns about their legality. The president, for his part, argued that America's strength should be a source of pride, not apology. From matters of national security, the tone shifted to achievement and innovation. The president highlighted the Wright brothers' first flight back in 1903, noting it came just decades after the country was still taming its frontier. He then connected that legacy directly to today, introducing the crew of Artemis II, the mission that recently carried American astronauts around the far side of the moon. Further from Earth, he noted, than any human beings have ever traveled. Standing alongside the astronauts was Jack Schmitt, the last man to walk on the moon during the Apollo 17 mission, along with NASA's current administrator, who the president praised for leading the agency through this new era of lunar exploration. In a symbolic gesture tied to the anniversary, the president revealed a new American flag that had been flown above the U.S. Capitol earlier that day, intended to be carried to the moon on the next crewed lunar mission. Turning to domestic policy, the president used part of his address to promote what he called the Safe America Act, a proposal that would require voter identification and proof of citizenship at the polls, while eliminating mail-in voting except in cases of illness, disability, military deployment, or travel. He closed the speech returning to the emotional core of the evening, honoring what he called the greatest generation, while pledging that America will remain a global leader in strength, innovation, and liberty for generations to come. So, what does all of this mean going forward? This was, above all, a night built around symbolism, historic flags connecting 1777 to 2026, veterans spanning nearly every major American conflict of the last century, standing together on a single stage, and astronauts representing the newest chapter of American exploration, sharing that same platform with 107-year-old World War II veterans. The speech blended a traditionally unifying occasion, a nation's 250th birthday, with sharply political messaging, particularly around communism, immigration, and military strength. That combination has drawn mixed reactions. Some see it as a fitting, unapologetic celebration of American resilience. Others, including political opponents, argue that a milestone meant to unite the country was used instead to draw partisan battle lines ahead of this November's midterm elections. Both readings are worth holding on to, because both were clearly present in the speech itself. What seems less disputed is the emotional weight of honoring living veterans, Medal of Honor recipients, and the crew of America's newest moon mission, all in the same ceremony, on the same night, as the country marks a quarter of a millennium since its founding. Looking ahead, expect this speech and its sharper political passages to remain part of the national conversation in the weeks to come, especially as campaign season heats up before November. Expect continued debate over the military actions referenced tonight and continued discussion over how a milestone like this one should be marked, celebration, politics, or some combination of both. For now, one thing is certain. On a night interrupted by storms and evacuation orders, the ceremony went forward exactly as the president said it would. I'm Savannah Rose. Thank you for watching Echo Cinema TV. Stay with us for more breaking news.